This is the Clark Connection Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and power. We'll dive deep into the stories and strategies that ignite personal growth and entrepreneurial fire. Join us as we empower you to take control, level up your leadership, and build the life you deserve. Get ready to rise, to thrive, and to finally become the leader of your own destiny. Let's go. Welcome back to the Clark Connection Podcast, where we talk leadership, growth, and winning the battles that matter the most.
And today we're diving into a powerful book that's all about those invisible battles, the ones we fight in our minds.
Yes, I'm your host, Aaron Clark, aka The Coach.
And I'm your co-host, Caitlin Michelet.
That's right. And we're here reviewing Winning the War in Your Mind by Craig Groeschel, a book packed with truth, tools, and transformation.
Groeschel doesn't just offer self-help platitudes. He gives practical steps for replacing lies with God's truth.
If you've ever felt stuck in negative thinking, overwhelmed by self-doubt, or just tired of fighting the same internal battles,
And this episode is for you. We're going to break down key insights, share our personal takeaways, and talk about how this book challenged us both.
Absolutely. But before we get that, we got to give a shout out to our title sponsor of this episode, Vicki with Hubbard Flooring Studios. Vicki and her team are masters at transforming spaces, laying down foundations of beauty and strength, just like the foundations we build in leadership. Whether you're looking to refresh your home or reimagine your workplace, Hubbard Flooring Studios has you covered from the ground up. You can visit them at their physical site on Boylan Avenue in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Give them a call at 225-924-1582 or explore their amazing work at hubbardflooringstudio.com. Remember, great leadership starts with a strong foundation, and Vicki and her team know exactly how to set that in place. Make sure, guys, you give them a call. Tell them that Coach Clark sent you, and she has a special deal for my listeners. So all you got to do, mention Coach Clark.
Ooh, thank you, Vicki. And if you've got questions or want to connect with us, just click the link in the show notes to fill out a quick form. We'd love to hear from you. And make sure to send in your questions for our Ask the Coach episodes as well.
Grab your journal, maybe even your copy of your book, and let's get into it. Caitlin's got hers.
It's a pretty one.
It is. It is.
This is the Clark Connection Podcast. And the war in your mind, that's one you can win.
Yeah, and speaking of winning the war in your mind, the first thing you have to be able to do, guys, is identify the battle. And so a lot of times for us, and this is one that always used to drive me insane when I was younger, and mostly because I didn't understand and I thought my dad was a guru. That was what he would always say.
But he's also very smart.
Oh, yeah. Yes, because he used to always say, perception is reality. And so that, as we're going through this life, we've got to remember that our perception is our reality. Our experiences make up our reality. And so, from childhood fear to shame to trauma, anything like that, that's stuff that we have had to deal with. And that's our perception. And that's what makes our reality.
Yeah. And I mean, really, the perception can be the lie. It could be the same thing. And what Groeschel really drives home in right here in the beginning and really sets the scene is what he repeats over and over. He's like, this is important. Make sure you hear it. A lie believed as truth will affect your life as if it were true. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. If you think it, it's true to you. So what are you thinking? What are those lies? You have to identify them first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I loved how, and as he went through, he was like, And so, are you struggling with feeling? And I don't miss it. I mean, it felt like the infomercial. And you see like, oh, the dad doing whatever. Inadequate. Lame. Stupid. Not good enough. That you'll never measure up. And it's so crazy because I mean, I know I've had those thoughts. And I think everybody, especially those of us that are in leadership wanting to get better, we've had those thoughts, the feelings of inadequate, that, whatever I'm doing right now is stupid because it's not working.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and especially when, you're trying to do something good for yourself, or you're trying to, get better, or get, like, get better, like things for you know what I'm saying? Failure is part of that process, so you're gonna experience those failures. You're gonna hear those no's. And if you let it, it can really discourage you. It can really, you know, encourage you to tell yourself those lies of, I'm a failure. I can't do this. Why did I ever think I could do this?
yeah, and it's definitely something that we all have to
Mhm.
deal with. And so, what was the replacement?
Yeah.
So why don't you tell them about that 2-step
Yeah.
process?
So, like Aaron said, once you identify the lie, your liberation from that lie is a two-step process. It's called the replacement principle. So, this is like first step to replacing those lies with truth. So, the replacement principle, you remove the lie and replace it with truth. Step one, step two. Easy enough, right?
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Just make it happen, Captain. And so because it reminds me of, and he talked about it. I thought it was perfect. And as I was reading through my quiet time and devotion, and it's one I'll tell everybody, as part of the 7 steps to growing yourself personally. You've got to have that quiet time where you spend time in meditation and in reading. And so Rochelle talked a lot about the story, especially at the beginning, the story of Elisha. So those of you that are not familiar with, let me set it up real quick, and I'm going to do my best to do this in less than 90 seconds because it covers like 4 years worth of time. So that Elijah is a prophet in the Bible. You can read about this in 1 Kings. I want to say it starts in chapter 16, but go look in 1 Kings and you can get the whole version. But this is the Cliff Notes version according to Aaron. So that Elijah goes and tells the king of Israel, hey, it's not going to rain until I tell you it's going to rain. That it doesn't rain. Elijah that has to go into hiding, goes off into another land. Doesn't rain in Israel for 3 years. Everything dries up. They're in a drought, right? And so that 3 years go by. Elijah comes back. That meets up with the king and says, all right, I'm going to challenge you and the priest of your false god Baal to a challenge. So 400 priests for Baal, 450 priests for Asherah. They go up on top of Mount Carmel, and they have a challenge, a duel, I guess you would say, to see who can get their sacrifice to light on fire. Nobody brings fire. Goes on all day. Prophets of Baal are not able to get the fire to light. They can't do it. So Elijah then gets his people to go get 4 jugs of water, and he gets them to dump it on there, not on top of his sacrifice, not once, not twice, but 3 times. To make sure that they can't claim that he's doing any type of sorcery, because he wants to make sure he's doused down this thing. Praise calls down fire from heaven that lights up, that completely embellishes the whole thing, that tears it up. Then praise, rain comes, and he even beats King Ahab of Israel, who's on a chariot pulled by horses in a foot race. So pretty cool stuff, right? That this dude has just done the stuff. I mean, that Caitlin, you ever beat a chariot in a foot race?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. That's what's up, man. You didn't tell me you had these type of cool talents.
I know. No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I think of it like, hey, you just won the championship, whatever. Like, well, now because that Ahab was married to, everybody is pretty familiar with that evil Jezebel. So this is the real, the OG Jezebel. She basically turns around and says, you know what you did to my people, because he went and slaughtered all these prophets, like 800 of them, of these false gods. And Jezebel just goes, cool, what you did to them, I'm going to do to you. And he runs. So, I mean, it's kind of like, dude, this is what goes through my mind. Like, you just wiped out 800 people. Like, you just whooped 800 people. You said it wouldn't rain until you said so. It went 3 years, no rain. You pray, it rains. And someone like one person.
One girl.
I'm going to kill you. I was going to say, how did you? I will cut you. And he runs and hides. I'm like, bro. Like, seriously? But, Elijah, he goes into this stage of depression that, hey, where's everybody else? That nobody else is coming with me. I'm doing this all on my own. And, God brings him back to, it's Mount Sinai, where the 10 Commandments were given to Moses and the nation of Israel. And, an earthquake happens. God's not in the earthquake. And then, it was the winds. And then the earthquake. God's not there. And then a huge fire takes a blaze on everything. And God's still not in that fire. And all of a sudden, there's just like a small little whisper. There's a whisper that comes by. And God was in that whisper. And so, and I thought that was cool. I've never thought about it until then, that it was during that time of our struggle the most, that's when God's the closest. And that's why he whispers instead of, ooh, look at me, that type stuff. Like, great story that, just being able to get in and dig into those people and believe the truth instead of the lie that you're believing right now. You've got to identify that battle.
Yeah. He tells some really good stories too. Other stories. Actually, Craig Groeschel himself, when he got what he thought was locked in a closet, or no, his friend.
Yeah,
his friend locked his friend in a closet, like climbs through the air ducts and all that. He was never locked in. And I love the story about Harry Houdini too. Everybody knows who Houdini is, the world famous magician. And and Houdini goes to like all these any city that he goes to, he is known for like going to a jail and getting locked in a jail cell and figuring out a way to get out. And so he goes to this one city, and the jailer actually turns the lock the wrong way to where the door isn't even locked. But Houdini thinks that it is, and so he tries to turn it the other way over and over and over when he's really actually locking himself in. And he finally gives up, and he's just like, you got me. Like, I can't do it. And the whole time, like, he was never locked in. He locked himself in. So just great examples of the lies that you tell yourself. They're true to you, whether or not they're reality, they're your perception, and they're your reality. That's the world that you're going to live in. So just how important it is to be aware of what you're telling yourself, because we talked about, like, first step is identifying the lies. So, why is this so important? Why is chapter 1 so important? We've spent a little bit of time on it now. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you why it's so important, because you have to identify what lies are holding you back You have to know what they are first. Then we can get into how do you stop it. We're going to tell you. That's the
And
first step.
so, absolutely. And what's a lie that, guys, that you believed that you need to replace with truth? Drop that in the comments. Or if you want, message me personally, that if it's personal, and let's start removing those lies together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah. So next thing was becoming a thought warrior. So we just talked about that. And so what is it about that, Caitlin? What would you say is about that, the thought warrior?
I loved how Craig Groeschel really sets this up and talks about the importance of engaging in this war. It's a war. You know, you're basically in war, at war with your mind and your thoughts daily. It's a mental war. And you have to engage. There's no other way for us to defeat evil, win this battle. He says the days of being neutral are over. And that really spoke to me because I feel like maybe it's the place that I'm at in my life. Maybe some of our listeners can relate, but you know, we got a lot going on at this time in our life. And so I personally feel like it's easy to kind of fall into our patterns and monotony and just kind of going through the motions every day. And it does feel very neutral sometimes. And neutrality is not going to help us win this war. And if you're not fighting, you're losing. That really spoke to me. Like, that was like, oh, dang. But you're right.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to find, because I didn't remember where I wrote it down at, how many thoughts that we have a day, and how many of those are actually intrusive thoughts that, thoughts that we didn't even ask to come in. So when you're talking about the mind being a battlefield, and how you've got to gear up and fight this battle daily, one that we were talking about in my men's Bible study the other day was the importance of renewing your mind daily. And, they use the perfect present tense of renewing, meaning, hey, you have to do this all the time, not, hey, I renewed my gym membership. It's good for the next year.
That's a great example. That's funny.
Now, that's what I was trying to find, because it was something like 12% of your day is with thoughts that you didn't ask for. And that's what I was looking for, but I don't know where I wrote this down at. But I think that's important that we know that guys, that you've got something crazy going on, that battle that's happening in your mind. And he listed the ultimate thought warrior as being the Apostle Paul. If you're not sure who he is, you can go read about 90% of the New Testament in the Bible that's written by him. I mean, not exactly 90, but it's a lot. And Paul looked at everything throughout here. I mean, there's even examples of him talking about, hey, guys, I'm in prison. Let me tell you about the good stuff going on right now. And it's like, good stuff in prison. And it's not like what we think of today where you got 3 hot in a cot. It's like you're in, like, think of like the original, like, Count of Monte Cristo, like just dingy, like you didn't have a toilet, so where do you think they went? Type deal. Like, it wasn't a fun. You didn't get food unless somebody brought it to you. So I mean, Paul saw it as an opportunity always to praise, and then this is something that you can't win alone, guys. The battle that's going on in your mind, it's not something that you win by yourself. He kind of compared it to fighting Godzilla with a fly swatter, trying to fight it on your own. You need something a little bit more. You need God's power.
Yeah, that was really great. That and Paul is the one who reminds us in his letters that the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is available to us. Like, just to fight our mental battles, that same power is available to us every single day if we ask God for it. So we can do it because he can do it. If he can raise Jesus from the dead, he can help us win that battle in our minds. But we have to ask.
Yeah, it's got to be something that you want as well. And there's nothing that they talk about as well that throughout the book. If it's on your mind, it's on God's heart. So nothing that we have is too small. And ultimately, while we were talking about identifying that battle, is because you can't defeat what you can't define. So if you don't know what it is, that you can't do it. And so that have you guys ever tried to fight your mental battles all on your own? How did that go? Comment below. Tell us what helps you to stay mentally strong. Even if it's just drop an emoji, giving us that little strength, your little
Strong arm.
Strong arm. I was like, see, I mean, imagine how bad this would have been had I was still doing these on my own, because I can't come up with words to say, right? That would be an example of a lie we tell ourselves.
Let us know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're enjoying this, guys, so far, then make sure you subscribe to the show. They just hit that subscribe, get all the notifications. There's tons of great stuff that we put out every single week. It releases every single Tuesday at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is hit like and subscribe. That's it.
Lots of great interviews. We got more Ask the Coach episodes coming and more book reviews. So lots of great content coming for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this next little bit, we're going to kind of combine some chapters in here just to kind of move through that. And we called it lies, ruts, and rewiring. Okay. And so, that he talks about us getting stuck in that mental ruts, bad habits, negative loops. And so I think in order to do that, we have to define, what ruts are. Man, I'm struggling to talk right now.
No, you're doing good. What ruts are?
But
what does that mean? What is a rut?
Yeah. And so, it's basically the way I think, I've told everybody we race motocross. So if you go look up on any track anywhere, you see a bunch of little lines. That would be a rut. It's from going in the same spot over and over and over and over. And it's somewhere where your mind knows to go, because the pattern started to form. So same thing with motocross. A lot of times why those riders go back, and if you see it, and if you're not used to riding in them, you can actually go faster through that turn because you have something holding and hugging your bike to where you can just shoot through it. They really, they've done some tests, like those riders at the professional level are experiencing significant G's going through turns. And sometimes they get real deep and you get stuck in it. I've seen training with it. One of the funniest was my little buddy Rudy. They were out training at Wyndham's house, and he gets it so deep and tore up. Rudy's on his little 50 and he's going through, and you see him coming through, and the next thing you see him, just the bike stops, Rudy flips over the handlebar, it's still going, the wheels can't touch the ground because the pegs got stuck in there. So I mean, bike's like just bing 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 bing. He's legit stuck in a rut. That stuff that happens to us as well is when we keep going in that same place over and over and over and over and over, we start to form ruts.
Yeah. And the key with the ruts is that it's really for like your bad habits. So, and he talks about the ruts being the ruts happening because of crossed wires. So that's what he says is like doing things that we don't want to do. We know better, but like, let's say, you cope with like eating sweets, my crossed wires might be like, if I am stressed out or if I am not feeling good, I have to cope somehow. I go to sweets. It's like,
And you get a Reese's and Oreo.
literally.
All in one.
But I know that like that is not how I should cope with those feelings. It's just those crossed wires. And the thing with the ruts is that the more that you use that rut, the more you take that path, the easier it is to take that path and the faster you take that path. And it just reinforces those bad habits.
Yeah. And oftentimes they're not. And so that was one of I found where I wrote it down that, they're formed unintentionally. So typically in our lives that we don't just wake up one day. I hadn't met anybody that said, you know what? I want to be known as fill in the blank. As somebody who spends too much time at the buffet, or somebody who always they eats way too many sweets whenever they're upset, or somebody who smokes a pack of cigarettes a day, or I hadn't met anybody that fill in those bad habits.
It just kind of happens.
Yeah. And I was about to say, and this is where I'll probably kick it back to you because you're the psych major.
No, I like
because I mean,
nerd out over this
that's
stuff.
where the hit of dopamine that you get when you do these things.
Yeah, and the thing is that hit of dopamine gets bigger and bigger each time that you do it, because when you first start with a bad habit, like we said, that that's not really the right way to handle, whatever you're dealing with. But it gets easier and easier to justify that bad habit. And so your dopamine gets stronger and stronger, and it creates that pattern. So yeah, eating too many desserts, smoking cigarettes, over exercising. I mean, that can be a big one too, that, you can get unhealthy with that kind of thing. Having too many adult beverages, like it just, like we said, it a lot of times just happens. And before you realize it, you've got a really bad habit that you've got to be intentional about unlearning.
Lying when you don't do something right or what you're supposed to, oof. The dogs, I still will stand by that. The dog ate my homework. He absolutely did. I didn't have a dog growing up, but it was the neighbor's dog.
Okay.
That didn't have.
So on that note, let's talk about the other side, the kind of flip side from a rut. What do you do to attack that problem, to attack the rut? Well, you don't attack the problem. You reverse. You attack.
Yes, you do attack
you
the problem.
do attack the problem, not the symptom. So the tree roots, not the branches. So you've got to reverse not just the behavior, but why are you doing it?
Right. And so one that Groeschel talks about is you have to stop it from going into a rut. You've got to create a trench. So digging trenches of truth is what he called them. And so, it's part of using that replacement principle. And then he talked about the rewire principle and then the trench of truth, which is to write it, think it, confess it, and believe it. And so I know one that you were working on that just recently, as we were going through this, I thought it was such a cool story. Like digging your own trench of truth.
Yeah. So it was, funny timing that we studied this book. It is good God's timing. But yeah, I just completed a diet. It's called Whole 30. So it's meant to really only be 30 days at a time. It's not meant to be like a long-term sustainable type of diet because you eliminate a lot of different food groups. And some people do it for health reasons to like kind of identify what food groups make your body react certain ways. But for me, I did it to kind of rediscipline myself and my relationship with food. And I'm really glad that I did it because 30 days is statistically long enough to create new habits and break bad ones. So yeah, after a month, I definitely find myself making better decisions. I had to remind myself forcibly that, if I want a delicious dinner, it doesn't have to be pizza or pasta or something like that. Like being delicious and being healthy are not,
simple.
yeah, I can't think of the word that mutually exclusive was the term. But yeah, like something can be healthy and delicious. And for a month, I got to, use different recipes and really, rediscipline myself. But that was me digging my trenches to undo the ruts of I'm hungry, I want something good, I'm gonna order a pizza, or I'm gonna make spaghetti.
Yes.
Things like that,
Yes.
But also, it goes back to like nourishing your body. Like your body is a temple, and just being more respectful of my health and my body. So yeah, it was really, really helpful for me.
Absolutely. And so, guys, what's your one rut or negative habit you're ready to replace with the trench of truth? Share it in the comments, and let's encourage each other with practical ways to rewire our thinking. And so, the one that we wanted to go into next was real quickly touched through rumination and renewal. That was in chapter 6, and I thought it was cool that it talked about repetition being the reason for ruts. And I did find it was right here. We're bombarded approximately 500 unwanted thoughts a day. So last 14 seconds, and which is approximately 2 hours a day. So 12.5% of the day. So did get that statistic right. But a lot of times we get people to believe lies that by repetition. How many of our friends, and I sometimes will include myself in this, back in the day, whenever I used to play, I tell you what, guys, I was the man on the football field. And if you were to talk to my best friend, he'd be like, he was a man on the football field. Yes. He was one of the guys. One of the 11.
I feel like everybody who played football in high school thinks that they were the man.
Look, I'm serious. If Coach would have just played me in the fourth quarter state championship game, we'd have won state. Then it wouldn't have made a difference. But
the world would be exactly the same today.
I might have been broken. More so. But you get people to believe a lie by repetition. And so it always makes me think, I'm a huge fan of The Office. And so one day, Jim, as one of his many pranks that he does on Dwight, is that Dwight believes that today, which is Thursday, is Friday. He tells somebody it's Friday, talking to one of his friends. And so Jim literally all day long was telling and saying around Dwight how today was Friday, how he can't believe he missed the show from last night, The Apprentice from last night. He's like, dang it, I should never go play paintball on Thursday night. I can't believe I missed it. And so, it just kind of on and on and on and on to where the next day, Dwight doesn't show up to work until 2 p.m. So he's got him believed that today is Friday, tomorrow is Saturday. And the whole funny part of it too is the whole time that Dwight was like, I've never been late to work once. And this presented that opportunity for him to pull a prank on him. But that happens to us all the time, guys. That we get caught up in that. We believe these lies. And I loved how he said, and this was the first time I'd ever thought about it, because, he said, the devil's not creative. He's just repetitive. He tells us over and over and over and over, you can't do that. You're not worth it. They'll never love you. They won't believe that you did that. There's no way we can possibly change. You can't stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. And so, because if he was creative, he would change it up. I wouldn't get into an argument with my spouse about things. That today would be my spouse, tomorrow it's Caitlin, the next day it's somebody else. It would be like, hey, I'm going to find a new way for them to get into an argument with everybody. No, who does he do it with? The people that you love the most. He's trying to create strife there. So I thought that was interesting. And that you were talking, that one of the ones I was kind of giggling at whenever you talked about automaticity.
Yeah.
And using that at the house.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to share that back to psychology. Psychologists call this like repetition to make someone believe a lie. They call it the illusory truth effect. And it's been called a glitch in the human psyche, which is so crazy to me. And I love that they described it that way, because that's exactly how it feels sometimes. And my example for Aaron was over the weekend, our power went out at our house. And it was out like all day. It didn't come back on till like 6 that evening or something. But my husband and I are just hanging around the house. And every time that we walked in a room, we'd flip the light switch on. And every time we walked out, we'd switch it off just out of habit. And my husband is actually the one that said, like, I don't know why I keep flipping these light switches off and on. And I told him, I said, because I'm a nerd, we've established this. I said, there's a word for that. It's called automaticity. So that is the word that describes just doing something without thinking. When you do something over and over and over and over and over again, eventually you'll just do it without thinking, and it's automatic. It's automaticity. It's like driving to work in the morning or driving home in the evening. You don't even think about it. All of a sudden you're in your driveway and you just done it a million times. So you just do it automatically. Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah. I liked how they compared it to learning a foreign language as well, that you can't just listen to somebody speak a foreign language. You actually need to learn it. Go and actually get in it and start speaking. And until you can start thinking in that language, like I'm not going, okay, they just said this, translate it from foreign language to English. Think what I want to say in English, translate it now into foreign language and hope I say it right. It's got to, I remember teaching, I had several students that were fluent or bilingual in both English and Spanish. And that was one I asked them all the time, like, all right, so whenever you talk to somebody, your parent or somebody in Spanish, like, do you have to think about it? They're like, no, we just do it. And they said it's actually kind of funny when we get mad, because sometimes it just kind of in and out between the two.
Yeah. You just have the thoughts and it comes out. That's so interesting.
Yes. So wanting to move on now to the filters, frames, and reframing. And again, he was talking about, how your past creates your filters that distort your reality, your cognitive bias. And, one that I know I often talk about with everybody, especially people that I'm working with, mentoring and doing stuff, is we literally have very little control over anything. Now, the only thing that I can control is me. I can control my thoughts and my actions. And that's it. And so I really liked how he talked about that and went through and was talking about the our ability and the fact that we think we control stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of the meme that I had sent you that was like, I get paid whether I vibe or I stress, so we're gonna vibe today. It's like that, sometimes you just gotta vibe because stressing is not gonna change anything. But yeah, cognitive bias.
But you do know what stress spelled backwards is, huh? Desserts.
Oh, stressed.
Let's get it.
That's so funny. Um, I loved this chapter though. I shared it with my team because sometimes, and I'm sure it can happen in any profession, but especially sales or education, sometimes it can get a little discouraging, and sometimes you don't see the fruits of your labor right away. Sometimes it's a little bit of a longer game. So, you just got to reframe your thinking and think certain things like, I get to talk to all of these people today and tell them about our company and get to know them and what's important to them. And at the end of the day, whether they enroll or not, whether they come to the school or not, whether they buy or not, I met a new person, and I'm better off for it, and hopefully they're better off for it too. So just reframing your thinking and saying, I get to XYZ, you know.
And I love that mission too, because that's kind of one of my main missions is I want to make sure I add value to everybody I come in contact with. That's why I got started with the podcast as well, because I want to, there's so much good that we can go do that I want to be able to share that with people. And so I can frame it as, what did you say? I got to talk to all these people, or I get to talk to all these people. And so, I mean, it really reminds me of Paul in that Roman prison. He's writing a letter that, in Philippians, the letter to the Philippians, he's literally writing to them saying, hey guys, guess what? I'm in prison. Life is good though, but let me tell you, grateful that y'all sent me this stuff. Oh, by the way, let me tell you about this too. See, they think they got me locked up in here, but what they didn't tell everybody is they're sending a new guard in to be chained to me for 8 hours, guys. This is awesome. I'm spreading the gospel. What up? Your boy Paul signing out. Who's
the real winner here? It was so funny.
That's what I like. I thought that was good, until he said it kind of like that. I'd always thought like, gosh, that must be miserable to like, oh man, I got to go in there. Like, all right, seriously, who's going to watch Paul? I mean, did they even have scissors?
Good question.
Rock, paper. They had shears, so.
But he did end up converting a lot of the guards by witnessing to them, and he knew he wasn't gonna convert all of them, if any, but that's what he was called to do, and he had the opportunity to do it, and he took it.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's where it comes from. You control your mental attitude. You can control that. Again, Paul can't control the fact that he was in a prison. He didn't want to be in a prison, but that's where he got chosen. He was trying to.
Actually,
to
I was about to say he did want to go to Rome.
Well, yeah,
he's like, I got to Rome. Just not how he planned, but
he took that and then he reframed it, and that how do you guys do that? What's something from your past that you need to reframe through a new lens? I'd love to hear what you're doing on a day. Comment below, send us a DM, something like that, because I didn't want to get too far ahead of it because we were starting to get there. And the next was Paul praised through the pain. He praised through the pain. And this one, so I know we talked about this before, and it's one that, he was praising in prison, not for the outcome, but because of God's presence. And I'll talk about this with that one of the things I just cannot stand hearing. I mean, song's great, don't get me wrong, but I can't stand hearing they thank God for unanswered prayers. Well, that's nonsense. He answered it. It just wasn't how you wanted it answered. That's the reality of it. He told that he's always going to tell you yes, no, or wait. And I'd rather be told yes or no. The wait is the miserable part. With any of that, like, oh, hey, I want to go to Rome. Yeah, just kind of wait on that. If you can just hang on 1 second, I'm going to get you there, bud. I promise.
Yeah.
Ooh. But, that's how God works. He went through and said, I'm going to put you in this Roman prison and this is how you're going to share the gospel. I don't want you to do it the other way. But, there's another example in the Bible where that Paul and Silas are locked up in prison. And again, Paul's like, hey, dude, let's start singing. So they start singing praises. And then the jail cell opens and all the chains fall off. And it wasn't because it wasn't because they didn't praise because of what happened. What happened became because of the praise. And I think that's where they were talking about. And, in the rejoice principle is that we've got to look at and try to find what we are grateful for, in the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
Stop looking for the bad. Start looking for the good.
Yeah. Well, that's what Groeschel says is if you're looking for the bad, you're going to find it. But if you're looking for the good, you're going to find that. You're going to find whatever you are looking for. So you've got to make that choice as far as what are you looking for? What do you want? What do you want to focus on? How do you want to frame your reality, whether it's the past, the present, or the future? Because you can pre-frame your future as well. But that frame is going to be decided on, what are you looking for? How do you want to frame it?
Yeah. And I really love too, he gave the example, it was such a great example of a hummingbird versus a vulture.
Yeah.
A vulture is looking for roadkill. They're looking for stuff that's dead. A vulture is not looking for, anything that I would want to eat, hey, there's that armadillo on the side of the road, lunch. But that's what they're looking. They're looking for dead stuff. So guess what vultures find?
Oh, dead stuff.
Gold star. That versus a hummingbird is looking for sweet nectar that comes from flowers and plants. And so what does the hummingbird find?
That's sweet nectar.
So what you're looking for, that you're going to find, whatever you've got your focus on. And he told a great story too, that he just released his book called Hope in the Dark, Believing God is Good When Life Isn't, and it sold out. And so he was pretty bummed about the book selling out, but it wasn't until, one of the guys that read the book actually wasn't the person that ordered the book. It was his wife who had just passed away, had terminal illness, that wanted to get the book. Book was on back order. The book came the week between his wife's passing and her funeral, and read the book and was like, wow, I needed that. It came through at the perfect time. And so we're always looking at, your perspective is what's important there, guys. You got to control. It's all up here. You got to control that.
Yeah.
And I liked so just kind of moving to because I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. I know you like talking about that right there in chapter 10, the problems, panic, and presence. Talk about the amygdala.
Yeah.
That. So I'm gonna kick that to you.
Yeah, I mean, just fight or flight, you know. The amygdala just triggering that adrenaline when you start to panic for whatever reason. And sometimes it's not always logical. It's like, why am I freaking out? I literally just have to turn on a camera and talk to Aaron. Like, it's fine. But, you know.
That's because I'm so awesome. I'm very important.
Yes. No, but yeah, chapter 10 really talks about the psychology of the amygdala, adrenaline, the prefrontal cortex. It's the reasoning portion of the brain. So we talked about fight or flight and then the reasoning. And you have to remember that in times of panic, God is close. We talked earlier about he's in the whisper, you know, so he's not gonna be out and like obvious and loud and annoying. He's quiet, you know, and I love the way that Craig Groeschel describes it as well. He says, think about when your friend tells you a secret, you know, and whispers in your ear, you know, hey, come here, got a secret for you. What do? You lean in. You lean in. And that's exactly what he wants us to do is lean in, calm down, you know, be in the quiet and then lean in. That's where he is and that's where his peace is. So that was really profound for sure.
Yeah. And and then he goes in and talks about the perspective of praise. And from there, he talks about, if we forget about God, we're not going to pray. And the importance of that prayer in your life and what it does for your brain. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just a way to do it. I tell everybody, if God's your friend, how do you talk to your friend? I mean, people are, I love how he's like, do you need started off with oh, mightiest of creator and being, heavenly fatherist. Do we need to speak in King James or older?
Well, you could.
You could
if that's what you want to do. But, Craig Groeschel tells us that in the Bible, they use the word Abba, and translated, it really means daddy or papa, a really intimate form of that fatherhood.
Yeah. And for me, the simplest way, I don't call a friend and go do that. I just go, hey man, what's up? I mean, that's how I open my prayers.
And you probably do it the same way every time. I will share a really quick story because it really touched me. And it has to do with my daughter. So she's about 2.5 now. And my husband and I realized we have not been doing a good job of praying at home very much. And so in the last month or so, we started doing nighttime prayers. She's got plenty of, prayer books and stuff like that. We just never used them. So started pulling out a prayer book and doing prayers every night. And so this is nighttime, right before she's literally in bed. So before she's going to sleep, start saying our prayers. And she said, this is completely out of the blue. She's at the end of the prayer, she said, amen. And God bless the cook. And it was so humbling for me because I realized that was automaticity, right? She prays so much at school before her meals that's just how she ends her prayers. And it was the cutest thing. And so it made me feel better that she is praying at school. But, just reminds us as well as her parents, we got to be praying just as much at home.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I guess she would want to make sure that the cook was blessed because that's who is.
Yes. Amen. And God bless the cook.
So, I mean, it happened during that whole 30. So, I mean, she was probably like, I don't know what in the world I just ate, but
I'm telling
please.
you, I cooked more in that 1 month than I have probably in the last year. And it was great. I love to cook. So, yeah, she was like, man, mama's cooking a lot.
Absolutely. And so, guys, when you're in those bad moments, though, what do you do when you're in that tough time? What do you do? Are you praying? That Paul was rejoicing. He praised God for who he is, not what he's done. He didn't wait for like God to show up and show off. He waited for, he started in the moment, I'm going to praise. And so have you ever had a moment where praising God shifted your perspective, even when things didn't immediately change? We'd love to hear your story and share those comments. And so, Caitlin, I'm going to kick it to you for a little bit of takeaway action step. They go through those 4 mental
So
tools.
the 4 mental tools, we talked about the first one in kind of the beginning of our review of the book, but there's actually 4. So the first one that we talked about is replacing the lie, removing the lie and replacing it with truth. And then the next mental tool is rewiring your brain. So that's where the ruts and the trenches come in, digging your trenches to establish healthier habits. And then reframe your perspective. So it's all about your filters, your perspective. And then the 4th mental tool is rejoice in all things. Find God's goodness. Be grateful, be humble. Really, really awesome mental tools. And I want to leave you with this as well. Declare your truth daily. So just remember and tell yourself, I'm not what I did. I am who God says I am. I'm not who everybody else, who the world says that I am. I'm not my actions that I did in the past. I am who God says I am. And, Aaron, you mentioned the 7 actions that you should do, like
Of the 7 keys to personal growth.
Personal development. So this reminds me of one of them, which is affirmations, super, super important. That's something that you and I worked on recently. It's getting your affirmations down and deciding, what do I want to tell myself every single day? Look in the mirror and tell myself, remind myself. Super important.
Well, I mean, ultimately, your mind will believe what it's told over and over and over and over again. And so you can either tell yourself, hey, I'm a champion, I'm a winner, or, hey, you're a bum. And whichever you tell yourself, you're going to believe. And sometimes, guys, with some of it, and I thought this one was a cool, you got to look through the problem in order to see it. And it always reminds me of, Patch Adams. I don't know if you've seen that movie or not, guys, but there's one where he's walking around at the beginning of the movie and the guy's going on around and he's like, how many fingers do you see me holding up? And so if you're watching right now, you'll see that I'm holding up 4 fingers. And of course, everybody's telling him 4. And he's like, oh, you're missing it. You're missing it. And when you go through it, he's like, no, really look through the problem. Look through the fingers. How many fingers do you see? And at that point was when Patch realized, oh, he's got 8 fingers that are up. It's not 4, it's 8. I can see because he had that distorted views, talking about, the magic eyes. That was one that he talked about in the book as well. And so, kind of rotating back though, what Caitlin was saying though, is I'm not what I did. I'm who God says I am. And if you're looking for your value, guys, the value of something is what you're willing to pay for it. That if you hadn't heard any of the stories, they've got several of somebody taking an old Toyota Supra, showing up at a car dealership, and they're like, yeah, we'll give you whatever it weighs. And because they're just going to scrap it. That you show up over to somebody else's house and they might give you $1,000 for it. But if you show up at a car club and they understand what they're looking at, then they'll give you several hundreds of thousands of dollars for that vehicle because they know the worth of that vehicle. So to them, it's worth a lot. And so when you say that, what is my value? Well, my value is what somebody's willing to pay for. And Jesus paid with his life. He went and paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. And so he said, Aaron's worth dying for. And he said the same thing for you. And so I'm going to ask you as we kind of close it out, what's one lie that you need to replace today?
And that's a wrap on today's episode. What a journey through Winning the War in Your Mind by Craig Groeschel.
That we hope it challenged your thinking, inspired new habits, and reminded you that victory starts with your thoughts you choose.
And remember, changing your life begins with changing your mindset. One truth at a time.
That's right. And you don't have to do it alone. Get around people who speak life. And don't be afraid to rewrite the lies with God's truth.
Before we go, another huge shout out to our title sponsor, Vicki with Hubbard Flooring Studios.
Absolutely. Vicki and her team deliver quality, integrity, and excellence, just like the foundations we all need under our feet. And if you're looking to get started on your leadership journey, connect with me via all my socials or my website.
Thanks again for tuning in, guys. And if you got something from today's episode, share it with a friend or leave a review. Leave a like, drop a comment. You could even subscribe to the channel.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't need to be great to get started.
But you have to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep growing, and keep innovating.
Until next time, stay inspired and connected, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Clark Connection Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast, where my goal is to add value to you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. You can also connect with me via my website, coachaclark.com, or on all socials at coach_a_Clark. The links are in the description. Huge thanks to my sponsors, Wayne with 7K Metals, Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC, Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, Joseph with Landscape King, and Chris and Jess with C&J Embroidery. Hey, we look forward to bringing you more great content. See you next week.